Hi, and welcome to the Artsy Fartsy Club. My name is Mrs. Johnson, and I'm so happy you're here with me today. We're going to do a really cool bat painting, so let's get into seeing what you need. This is intended to be an elementary unit. You could do this with any grade from, I would say, first, second, third. That would be my range. So I'm starting with a 9x12. You can also do this project on a 12x18, which is what I normally would do. But since we're in the studio and we need to fit things on the screen, then we're going to use the smaller pieces of paper. So you need one blue for your background. Does not matter the shade of blue. A green. Probably doesn't matter what green. Brown. Now, so I took a brown and I divided it into thirds, and so that makes it on a 9x12, 3-inch strips. And I took one of those strips and cut it in half. Now you're going to want to change that. So if it was a 12x18, that would make it 3 4-inch strips, and you can work with that. And then I did a 9x6. So I took a black construction paper, cut it in half. And we're going to fold that later. So just kind of change your measurements accordingly. I wish I could say that you could just double the measurements, but it doesn't work like that. And then I have 2x2-inch white squares. You don't really need them to be quite this big, but I find that having a bigger square makes it easier for my students to hold. And then scrap pieces of papers. So I have blacks and browns and tans. Grays would be fine too. And scissors. What do you call that? Glue stick. A sponge. A pencil. And last but not least colored pencils. Prisma colors are my color pencils of choice because they go on construction paper really great. And ding. White, black, or any shade of brown paint. I only have acrylic paint with me today, but I highly recommend that you use tempera paints, but you use what you got, and I'm minus some tempera paints here in the studio. So we're going to go ahead. Before we can start our artwork, we need to find our motivation. And to motivate our students, we're going to use the book Stellaluna. Stellaluna is a really popular children's story that they will also use in their general ed class. So to reinforce their marsupial lessons, they'll talk about bats and they'll talk about nocturnal animals and echolocation and all of that stuff. So check out this book. I like to find it on Storyline Online because they always produce awesome read-alouds. I'm going to have you watch Storyline Online. If you don't need to see or have the read aloud, then you can catch me on the flip side. We'll be right back.
Hello, my name is Pamela Reed, and welcome to Storyline Online, brought to you by the Screen Actors Guild Foundation. Today we're going to read the book Stellaluna by Janelle Cannon. In a warm and sultry forest far, far away, there once lived a mother fruit bat and her new baby. Oh, how Mother Bat loved her soft, tiny baby. I'll name you Stellaluna, she crooned. Each night, Mother Bat would carry Stellaluna clutched to her breast as she flew out to search for food. One night, as Mother Bat followed the heavy scent of ripe fruit, an owl spied her. On silent wings, the powerful bird swooped down upon the bats. Dodging and shrieking, Mother Bat tried to escape, but the owl struck again and again, knocking Stellaluna into the air. Her baby wings were as limp and useless as wet paper. Down, down she went, faster and faster, into the forest below. The dark leafy tangle of branches caught Stellaluna as she fell. One twig was small enough for Stellaluna's tiny feet. Wrapping her wings about her, she clutched the thin branch, trembling with cold and fear. "Mother," Stellaluna squeaked, "where are you?" By daybreak, the baby bat could hold on no longer. Down, down again, she dropped. Flop! Stellaluna landed head first in a soft, downy nest, startling the 3 baby birds who lived there. Stellaluna quickly clambered from the nest and hung out of sight below it. She listened to the babble of the 3 birds. "What was that?" cried Flap. "I don't know, but it's hanging by its feet," chirped Flitter. "Shh, here comes Mama," hissed Pip. Many, many times that day, Mama Bird flew away, always returning with food for her babies. Stellaluna was terribly hungry, but not for the crawly things Mama Bird brought. Finally, though, the little bat could bear it no longer. She climbed into the nest, closed her eyes, and opened her mouth. Plop! In dropped a big green grasshopper. Stellaluna learned to be like the birds. She stayed awake all day and slept at night. She ate bugs, even though they tasted awful. Her bat ways were quickly disappearing. Except for one thing, Stellaluna still liked to sleep hanging by her feet. Once when Mama was away, the curious baby birds decided to try it too. When Mama Bird came home, she saw 8 tiny feet gripping the edge of the nest. "Eee!" she cried. "Get back up here this instant. You're going to fall. Break your necks." The birds clambered back into the nest, but Mama Bird stopped Stellaluna. "You are teaching my children to do bad things. I will not let you back into this nest unless you promise to obey all the rules of this house." Stellaluna promised. She ate bugs without making faces. She slept in the nest at night, and she didn't hang by her feet. Stellaluna behaved as a good bird should. All the babies grew quickly. Soon the nest became crowded. Mama Bird told them it was time to learn to fly. One by one, Pip, Flitter, Flap, and Stellaluna jumped from the nest. Their wings worked. "I'm just like them," thought Stellaluna. "I can fly too." Pip, Flitter, and Flap landed gracefully on a branch. Stellaluna tried to do the same. Ooh, ouch. Whoops. How embarrassing. "I will fly all day," Stellaluna told herself. "Then no one will see how clumsy I am." The next day, Pip, Flitter, Flap, and Stellaluna went flying far from home. They flew for hours, exercising their new wings. "The sun is setting," warned Flitter. "We better go home, or we will get lost in the dark," said Flap. But Stellaluna had flown far ahead and was nowhere to be seen. The 3 anxious birds went home without her. All alone, Stellaluna flew and flew until her wings ached and she dropped into a tree. "I promised not to hang by my feet," Stellaluna sighed. So she hung by her thumbs and soon fell asleep. She didn't hear the soft sound of wings coming near. "Hey," a loud voice said. "Why are you hanging upside down?" Stellaluna's eyes opened wide. She saw a most peculiar face. "I'm not upside down. You are," Stellaluna said. "Ah, but you're a bat. Bats hang by their feet. You're hanging by your thumbs, so that makes you upside down," the creature said. "I'm a bat. I am hanging by my feet. That makes me right side up. Stellaluna was confused. Mama Bird told me I was upside down. She said I was wrong. Wrong for a bird, maybe, but not for a bat. More bats gathered around to see the strange young bat who behaved like a bird. Stellaluna told them her story. You ate bugs? Stuttered one. You slept at night? Gasped another. Very strange, they all murmured. Wait, let me look at this child. A bat pushed through the crowd. An owl attacked you? She asked. Sniffing Stellaluna's fur, she whispered, You are Stellaluna. You are my baby. You escaped the owl? Cried Stellaluna. You survived? Yes, said Mother Bat as she wrapped her wings around Stellaluna. Come with me, and I'll show you where to find the most delicious fruit. You'll never have to eat another bug as long as you live. But it's nighttime, Stellaluna squeaked. We can't fly in the dark, or we'll crash into trees. We're bats, said Mother Bat. We can see in darkness. Come with us. Stellaluna was afraid, but she let go of the tree and dropped into the deep blue sky. Stellaluna could see. She felt as though rays of light shone from her eyes. She was able to see everything in her path. Soon the bats found a mango tree, and Stellaluna ate as much of the fruit as she could hold. I'll never eat another bug as long as I live, cheered Stellaluna as she stuffed herself full. I must tell Pip, Flitter, and Flap. The next day, Stellaluna went to visit the birds. Come with me and meet my bat family, said Stellaluna. Okay, let's go, agreed Pip. They hang by their feet and they fly at night, and they eat the best food in the world, Stellaluna explained to the birds on the way. As the birds flew among the bats, Flap said, I feel upside down here. So the birds hung by their feet. Wait until dark, Stellaluna said excitedly. We will fly at night. When night came, Stellaluna flew away. Pip, Flitter, and Flap leapt from the tree to follow her. I can't see a thing, yelled Pip. Neither can I, howled Flitter. Aye, shrieked Flap. They're going to crash, gasped Stellaluna. I must rescue them. Stellaluna swooped about, grabbing her friends in the air. She lifted them to a tree, and the birds grasped a branch. Stellaluna hung from the limb above them. We're safe, said Stellaluna. Then she sighed. I wish you could see in the dark, too. We wish you could land on your feet, Flitter replied. Pip and Flap nodded. They perched in silence for a long time. How can we be so different and feel so much alike? Mused Flitter. And how can we feel so different and be so much alike? Wondered Pip. I think this is quite a mystery, Flap chirped. I agree, said Stellaluna. But we're friends, and that's a fact. I really like this book, and I hope you do too. And I hope you enjoy all the things that you have with your friends that are the same, and especially all the things that are different. Happy reading.
Hey, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that story of Stellaluna. And in case you didn't notice that my voice and my mouth are not in sync, that's because I left my recording on mute from that point on. So I will be voicing over everything else from here on in, and hopefully this works out and you still get a great lesson. So let's zoom in. We're going to start with our blue paper. the long way left to right, that's called horizontal. And so I've got my 9x12, my 3-inch brown strips. I need only one, and one of the short ones as well. I always like to have extras at the table in case there is a whoopsie. And I'm looking for all of my brown Prisma colored pencils, all the different shades. Hopefully I find a black, but the black looks a lot like the blue indigo, which I think I accidentally grabbed, and we'll go from there. I'm going to use those colored pencils on their side to create visual texture on my brown paper, and the intention is to make it kind of look like a tree branch or bark, give it the texture of bark. So I'm going to go ahead and layer the different colors. The more layering on, the more visual interest there is. It makes it, the textures have highlights and lowlights, and gives a lot for the viewer to see. It catches their eye. It's so much more interesting. So really encourage to go ahead and layer those, but we are leaving the brown paper showing through also at the same time. So I'm not trying to color it in all the way. I want it to be almost scribble scrabble, and you know I don't like scribble scrabble, guys, but it is texture this time instead of scribble scrabble. Once adding the texture is complete, I am going to tear from the top to the bottom at kind of a wavy pattern to give the branch some movement. So it's not a perfectly straight branch. I want it to look more natural. So we're going to give it that deckled edge, and I'm showing you how it waves. It goes in and out, and that's going to give the illusion that the tree is trying to grow toward the light at different times and it has a more natural feel. And then I go down the other side, and as I'm doing that, I'm kind of following that curve, but it doesn't have to be perfect. But I do want it to start to taper more as I get toward the end. It doesn't have to be to a perfect point, and you'll see why in a moment, but we want it to look like it is larger on one side and smaller on the other. So you can see as I line it up on that blue piece of paper, it gives the illusion that the branch starts on one side off the page and continues off the page on the other side. And that's what we want to create, this idea that the scene continues off of our art. And I'm going to go ahead and do the tear again on the small piece, and I want it to be a smaller branch that is coming off from that main branch. So go ahead and tear once again. You don't have as much room to go ahead and do a wavy line, but making sure that it goes from a thick end to a thin end. And this time we do want it to go more toward a point. So I'm going to readjust it. I say, oh, that branch looked too big to be a branch coming off of my main branch. Thin it out, make sure it looks realistic in size, and make sure it goes toward that point. Now, when I go to glue it down, I want it underneath the main branch so you don't end up having the perfectly straight squared off end on top. And I'm talking about that right now, and there you go. See how you just don't want to see that. So we put it underneath, and I make sure that it fits onto my page and gives me room on the right side for Stellaluna. And I'm going to go ahead and flip it over once I see that it's the way that I like. And of course you could use Elmer glue on this assignment, and I always tell my children dot dot dot, just a little, not a lot, and have them go around the edge in small dots. At one point I even had dotting tops for my Elmer glue, but for the sake of speed, glue sticks are great, they go fast. For the sake of money, when my program was short on money, I used Elmer's, and you just had to teach them not to use too much, because we all know that wet glue and construction paper bubbles and takes a long time to dry, and nobody's got time for that. So flip it back over in place, but don't press it all the way down because you have to stick that little branch underneath. Make sure that's where you want it and smooth everything down, leaving that space for Stellaluna. Okay, I have a palette of brown, black, and white paint. And once again, I'm using acrylic today, but it is what it is. I would use tempera on this assignment normally. Honestly, you could use the acrylic. It just depends on how quickly your students can work. So I have a rectangular sponge because that's what I had in the studio. You could cut it square, you could cut it rounded to have a softer edge. And I'm just gonna dab a little bit of the white, a little bit of the black, kind of make sure that it's activating my sponge, getting it a little moist at the end. But I don't wet my sponge. You do not want a wet sponge. You do not want your paint wet. We want to see the texture of the sponge come through. And you'll be able to see that in just a moment. So you can just start painting in an oval shape, or you could have them lightly sketch an oval shape, but you don't want the pencil mark to show through. And of course, I'm attaching a sphere for the head. If I was doing it on my own, I would just go ahead and use my sponge, but some students may be apprehensive and a little guideline will go a long way. So I am noticing that it's a little too black heavy on one side and really, really white on the other. So I'm adding my other color and I'm going to start layering. And that's what this sponge technique is all about. It's about layering and stippling in those different colors. The white is nice and juicy, so I like to have a nice base of white because that's my best paint in my palette right now. And the brown and the black are a little bit of a drier consistency. So those are more of my accent color coming on top. I'm going to go back in and spread out some of that other color. And you can see the delicious texture that that sponge leaves. And I've seen this project done with, like, maybe not this project, but other projects, similar projects with forks. And I just think that looks awful. They're very defined lines. The paint is blobby and gooky. So if it's a 2-year-old, great. If you're trying to teach your students how texture can create a feeling or a visual appearance of how something may feel, then we're going to go with the sponge because it's going to make it look softer, blended, more like a fuzzy, furry, cute bat, if you think bats are cute. And just go ahead and make that sphere shape. I'm just rotating it around and I'm just saying, look at that. Look at the different designs the sponge makes. It's just faboo, okay? It just makes it so much more interesting to look at. So just keep going, keep blending. All right, let's speed this up for you. And the last tip that I want to tell you is that I come back in the center at the end with a little bit of white, highlighting the center mass to make it look a little bit more three-dimensional, but also it's going to highlight, especially on the face, where we put in those features later on. Now I've got that half black sheet of paper and I am going to start by folding it over like a book. Now we are doing this so that we can cut 2 of something. I do not actually draw it on the fold because I'm not trying to do a attached reflection. I want them to be 2 separate pieces. So use a yellow or a white colored pencil to be able to see on the black. I mean, some people, you know, you can just use a regular pencil and you can see it okay. But I feel for the students, having that colored pencil makes it a little bit easier to see. So I'm doing an arch shape. Small arch at the top, longer on the side, and then there are 3 dips in a bat wing. And at each point of a bat's wing is a little claw, like a little dew claw. And that helps them attach to the trees and climb on the things that they're trying to get to. So we're going to include that claw at each end. And of course, there's the one at the top. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut out my shape. I will have 2. And your thumb goes in the little hole, your fingers go in the big hole, and my thumb is always pointed up at the ceiling. Make sure you are cutting away from your body, not toward your body. It's so uncomfortable to do that. And use your left hand to do all the work, I'm saying. So I found the best point of entry is there, and I'm going to go ahead and use that left hand to turn the paper, making sure I take little alligator chomps. But when I get to that claw, stop, make sure it's all the way tucked into your scissors, and then pivot, turn, and you get to the next part, pivot, and cut. Just take your time. And every time that I say pivot when I am cutting, it makes me think of Friends. And if you know, you know, and if you don't know, you are far younger than I. But it's a thing on Friends. Go watch Friends. It's a fabulous series. I think you'll enjoy it. But we just go ahead and pivot in our scissors every time we need to make a big turn and do those little alligator chomps. Not big crazy nom nom noms, just little chomp chomp chomps. And let's speed this up for you really quick so I can show you the finished product. And shazam, flip it open, and you have two identical bat wings. Ta-da! Now place those wings on your paper, and the real trick is going to be getting that second wing in the paper. So you need to angle your wings down, and you want them to be fairly identical. So you are going to adjust the angle until it fits on the page. And my other thing I want to point out is when you are putting them down, to make sure that you put them down in a way that does not show that colored pencil. So if I go to flip over this, and you can see that yellow pencil, we want to make sure that's on the back. That's super important. And I'm going to go ahead and quickly glue these on. Take two of those 2-inch squares, and we're going to line them up to cut out the circles for the eyes. So I like to use the 2-inch squares I'm explaining because turning the paper to get those circles is a lot easier if there's more paper to hold. Anything much smaller than that is just too challenging for little hands that are still working on their manipulation skills. Or fine motor skills, as you may want to call it. So let's give them a break, give them something to hold on to. Don't draw your circle in the middle of your square, draw it over to a side, because then if I make a mistake, I can use another area of my square to try again. Thumb goes in the little hole, fingers go in the big hole. My thumb is always pointed up at the ceiling. Make sure those squares are lined up, and you've really got to give them a squeeze while you're turning the paper, because it's so fine, it's so small that if they budge, then those circles won't be identical. So hold on tight as you're turning it around. Watch your fingies as you get closer. So when I finished these up and put them down, I really wasn't happy with it. I looked at them and they looked more ovular than they did circular. So I actually wanted to make a new pair of eyes. And a special tip for you there is to turn Stellaluna the right side up when you're trying to make her face. And I accidentally made the nose and glued it on and forgot to record that part for you. But here I am recutting the eyes, making sure that they are more like circles than they are ovals, and you will see the difference when I go to glue them down. It looks much more appropriate, more like the Stellaluna illustration, and more like a bat. And we're going to continue to plug along. Now it's time to put the iris on the eyes. And the iris part is really big. It fills up almost the entire eye. And so color that in. So I'm just kind of making a circular pattern because I'm leaving that inner space for the pupil of the eye, which I will come back with the black. Once again, avoid blue indigo. Sneaky, sneaky. So just go ahead and fill in that white space with the black. Make sure it's a nice rich color because a nice solid black is going to draw visual interest from the viewer. And it's starting to come together. Now you should be able to draw the mouth on as long as your paint is dry. And my paint has a nice rough texture to it, so I'm able just to use the colored pencil. If your colored pencil does not work, you can also use a Sharpie. Now I'm ready to make those ears and feet. And if you have our youngest friends, you're going to want to go ahead and use triangle shapes. That is perfect for our kindy and first graders. They don't have to think too much, but if we want it to look a little bit more like the illustration, go ahead and cut out 2 pieces of your scrap paper. It can be in using this light tan, browns, gray, black, whatever you have, and line up the flat edge, cut a nice curved line and a straight line. And that's going to kind of look like a shark fin or a dolphin's fin. And if I did it correctly, I should have 2 shapes. Now, remember, I don't want to just set them down like that. I want them to be a reflection. So I need to flip one. So the curve is on the outside and the reflection over that line of symmetry down the middle. And then we line them up in about the same space. Go ahead and glue and repeat, and we're on to make the feet. Turn Stellaluna back upside down, and we have 2 lined up pieces of a medium brown. I actually just took a piece of paper and folded it in half, but we do not need to cut on the fold. We just need a nice lined up edge, and I'm going to cut a half a circle. So I'm going to just curve my paper, curve, 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 cutting to that flat edge. And then I'm going to check it. And those look a little big. So I'm going to go back and cut a little bit more. It's better to have them too big and then be able to cut some off rather than making them too small and then regretting that and having to start all over again. There we go. That looks better. And now put them back together. And we're going to round off because feet don't have sharp corners. So we're going to round off those corners now that I like the size of my feet to make it look a little bit more foot-like she is bending her knuckles in her foot to grab on to the branch. And ta-da! There you go. You've got 2 feet. Then go ahead and glue and repeat. And once your feet are in place, then we need to come in with the black colored pencil and we're going to draw those lines that our separate fingers make when they're all together. So the shadows make those lines on our hand. And same with Stellaluna. She's going to have lines dividing her little bat fingers on her feet. And then once I have those in, I'm going to make a claw in the center of each finger, clutching on the branch. So there we go. We are mostly done with our Stellaluna, except there's one more step. But Stellaluna herself is pretty done. And then we're going to come back in with that green paper. We almost forgot about that. I've grabbed one of my handy dandy texture plates. Take a colored pencil. You could use a crayon on the side and create a texture on your paper. But do mix and mingle some different colors. you could do this with paint also on a different day. I think before I did this lesson, I did a color mixing lesson with the sponge. We practiced with our sponges, and we used yellow and blue paint to make green, and so they made color mixed sheets of paper that they then used for this part of the project. So up to you. I'm adding in some fall colors, like the leaves are changing. And depending on what season you're in, you might want to incorporate that into your concept. You could have fall colored leaves, but I wanted the green. I don't know why. I guess I think they're green in the book, maybe. But so once I have that done, I am going to put leaves on that left side of the paper. So I just freehand it. You could have your students draw on the back, but I'm just sticking my scissors in and I'm going to go for it. So thumb in the little hole, fingers on the big hole, or in the big hole, and point your thumb up at the ceiling. And there I am explaining. I'm just going for it. And I'm going to do a curve line. And the only thing you need to know about this, it's kind of an almond shape or a football shape, is that the two cuts need to meet at a point. So leaves are not necessarily perfect shapes. So a nice curve and a nice curve. And then I'm going to go ahead and do a little one. And once I get that one cut out, I start trying to arrange them on my tree, figure out what's the best composition, encourage your students to do the same. And when I did that, I decided, you know what, I needed another leaf because, hey, nature, odd numbers tend to look better. So we're going to go ahead and go with 3. And I decided that the larger shape on top is a nice counterbalance to Stellaluna on the diagonal symmetry, and you can kind of explain flow and balance to your students as well. I am so sorry about that. What a bizarre day, but what do you think? So here's our art. I hope that you enjoyed doing this lesson with me, and I promise I won't do that again. I have 4 kids. Mommy brain does happen every once in a while, but it won't happen anytime soon because I will be double checking that at least for a month straight. I promise. And that being said, if you have made it all the way to the end on this one, please like and subscribe because you are my people. You're hanging with me the whole time. So go ahead, hit the like, subscribe, ding the bell so you know when I come out with my next video. Every Wednesday, there's a pre-recorded episode. And I also do live art lessons on Saturday. So, hey, and if you're here for the very first time, you are officially an Artsy Birthday Club member! Congratulations. And once again, my name is Mrs. Johnson. I am so happy that you are here with me today. And if no one told you, I absolutely love you. And until we see each other again, I hope that you are art